for just like, you shouldn't be drinking that much Coca-Cola in a day. Like, that's just bad for your body.
It's the Extremist movie debate, and tonight we're talking about something 2015's probably Warrior.
Warrior. God damn it, you're worse than I am.
Not true.
I'm Joe.
I'm unpaid intern Jeff.
And a coin will decide.
One of us is going to
proven.
love it. One of us is going to hate it.
I
Going to other fate.
love it.
I hate it. Hey, guys, don't
Break my arms. Don't pop my shoulder.
Can you scoot over a bit?
Spoilers ahead.
Hey, guys, don't become estranged from me and then, 20 years later, attack me in a cage.
You're not the... Oh, okay.
Spoilers are ahead.
All right, this movie currently has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, which means that, Jeff, since you hate it, Blake Howard of 2UE, that movie show,
Any relation?
says Warrior is an... Oh,
Any relation
yes.
to Ron Howard?
Yes.
Okay.
Lots. Warrior is an ode to valor ruined men in war, in peace, in the octagon. Can you please explain why you hate masculinity? You have 45 seconds.
I hate masculinity like this because this movie sets up that, years and years of repression and, being estranged from your family and trauma is all solved by brutalizing the person that at one point in your life you cared about in a cage while people cheer for you as you're trying to win, like, what, a couple $1 million? Like, that idea is so bonkers, and that is just fueling this, like, this ego mentality of men of, like, if you're the strongest guy in the bar who can play the punch game, the punch game where you punch it and it shows you how high you punch, those dudes are the dudes seeing this movie. No one is really concerned about, like, the mental aspect of the movie. They're worried about, is this guy gonna beat up this other guy in a cage? And it's like, deplorables go see this movie.
And that's your time, Joe. You have, 20 seconds?
30 seconds, you son of a bitch.
We're doing the short version. 20 seconds.
So basically,
all he needs, baby.
Jeff is trying to discount this movie because of the people who went in to see it. He's not actually focusing on the movie itself. And the movie itself is all about familial relationships and how they're trying to be bonded again after years of, like, destruction to them. Like, Nick Nolte and his son Tom Hardy are reconnecting because of this sport. And they're reconnecting with their brother because of this sport.
And that's your time. Thank you, Joe. All right. And, Joe, this question is for you, since you love it. Anna Smith of Time Out says, this doesn't pack a punch like The Fighter, but it's still a must for grapple fans. Can you please explain to me how this movie holds merit beyond surface-level MMA porn? You have 45 seconds.
Like I just said, it's about familial relationships and reconnecting with your past. Basically, Joel Edgerton at the end of this movie doesn't want to fight Tom Hardy, but they're the two, like, oh, surprise, they're the two that go to the final match. And basically, like, Tom Hardy is just not giving up because he's the younger brother who has to prove himself. And Joel Edgerton is doing his best to, like, give his brother this opportunity to have this gracious out when he is clearly beat, but instead Tom Hardy's like, fuck you. So Joel Edgerton breaks both of his, like, pops both of his shoulders out.
He pops one shoulder.
He bops both of them.
No, because he had his left hand up to fight the rest of the time.
Anyway,
Pops his right shoulder.
tomatoes and tomatoes. Basically, it's about reconnecting with your past.
Thank you, Joe. Jeff, you have 20 seconds.
So the fact that you're already inaccurate about the movie makes me think that you haven't watched it since it came out. I'm surprised because I watch this movie once a week just to, try to get into the dude bro mentality of why people would actually like this movie. And you're saying that Tom Hardy is there because he's the younger brother and wants to prove himself. He's there because he was going AWOL from the Marines, and this was his chance to redeem himself. But that's such, like, a shitty cop-out. Like, how would you... he would get court-martialed if they were like, you were going AWOL. But, oh, you're in this giant MMA competition?
How many seconds does he have?
It's gone over. I was waiting for him to finish. All right,
I'm just getting mad.
You're a terrible moderator.
I like
Lester,
to
what's
let
his
it
face?
ride.
You're a real Lester Holt.
Stop
Ethan.
abusing the moderator.
Hey, Joe.
I
You got
can't-
2 minutes. Fight me. Go.
Fight
You want
him?
me to fight you?
Go.
All right, so
Ethan hasn't even seen this. How am I supposed to fight you?
So with the familial aspect, what to you really stood out? Because it
What
just...
to me stood out?
Yeah,
It's all
because
these,
it
all
just-
these guys who are broken, who have fucked up in their past, and the one guy
Okay, so
who has
how-
actually been able to move past that and have a family that's a stable family. But he's following his heart by.
So they're all
he's
broken,
following his
yet one
heart.
of them has a very successful life.
He's
That doesn't
following
make any
his
fucking
heart.
sense. You're
He's following-
contradicting yourself.
Jeff, I'm trying to explain it, but you keep jumping.
We're gonna life this, and I'm just gonna get mad at you.
This?
Yeah, when we did life, and you just gave up because I talked over you. What you're, like, saying is, like, factually inaccurate. One
not
guy
inaccurate.
did what he thought was best for his family. One guy.
Who was that?
Fucking Joel Edgerton. He thought he was doing the right thing by cutting the rest of the family
off. And that's what I was getting at, right? Like, when
you were saying he's a broken person. How was
I didn't say he was the broken person.
You said they're a broken family.
They're a broken family.
Yeah, they're trying to redeem themselves.
Nick Nolte is gone. Tom Hardy went to war and then AWOL. And he's broken because he fucking hates his dad.
Nick Nolte isn't gone. He knows that his dad. He knows his dad's the only one who can train him to get to the final fight. And also, Nick Nolte didn't really redeem himself because he relapses towards the end.
I know.
That's not redemption.
That's what makes this movie like grounded and realistic, is because addicts don't just change like that. You actually need to see the struggle, and the struggle is what you connect with.
I mean, they tell us the struggle. They don't show us the struggle.
Characters.
They tell us the struggle because they say Nick Nolte hired a private investigator to follow Tom Hardy around, and he found out about the mom, and he found out about Tom Hardy, and so we're supposed to be surprised that he has like a bad relationship with these people. He was saying he hired a private investigator to find out about the mom and Tom Hardy, so we already know what's going on with him. And then
did you just say that? Are you trying to prove that Nick Nolte's not a broken person who was excommunicated from the family?
And time. What'd you really think of the movie?
I have qualms.
This movie's fantastic. I mean, from a guy who doesn't know anything about MMA, this movie is fantastic.
Are you saying that this movie shows how you can get addicted and then recover in real time? In over 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Is that what I was getting out of what you were saying?
No, Nick Nolte comes in like a drunk.
Yeah,
isn't it? Tom Hardy basically says like, yeah, you can train me, but you can't drink. And then he relapses at the end? Yeah?
No,
I'm sorry, Jeff. What did you really think?
No, Nick Nolte is saying, I'll train you, but you can't be like drinking or like on the shit you're doing. So he makes Tom Hardy give up pills. When we are introduced to Nick Nolte's character, he's already almost 1,000 days sober, and then towards the end of the tournament, they have Tom Hardy and Nick Nolte have a falling out, and Tom Hardy tells him, "You're always going to be like a piece of shit. There's no redeeming yourself," and so Nick Nolte goes back to drinking, and like one of the heaviest scenes of the movie, I just have a problem with, like, It's a good story tied into a really bad sports movie. Like, it's not a very well made, like, MMA movie.
So yeah, are you talking about like the technical aspects of
like
mixed martial arts?
Maybe because like I'm so involved in that community that it stands out to me a little more.
Intern Jeff is an MMA fighter.
Or I was, till I blew up my back. I have scoliosis now, and I have neck issues. Thanks, guys. But no, like a lot of the fight scenes, they're saying these are the best 18 or 16 middleweights in the world. I don't know why I'm looking at you like you know the movie.
Yeah.
They're establishing this tournament. It's the best 16 middleweights in the world, and it's going to be a Grand Prix, so it's like 8 fights over the course of 2 nights. But there are so many times that Joel Edgerton, is that Edgerton? His fights would have been stopped because he completely stopped defending himself and just like laid helpless waiting for the bell. That would never happen, especially in this type of tournament. The point where he has I
don't know, they go hard though.
He has Tom Hardy in the omoplata in the end, and that's when he snaps his shoulder and you hear it snap and Tom Hardy just stops screaming. Any competent ref would have stopped the fight at the time. Tom Hardy attacks his brother after the bell rings, and that would have ended in a disqualification. So
maybe
it just seemed like they were like glossing over the rules in a $5 million tournament to have some sort of drama.
Jeff, maybe the true like core of this movie is bad referees.
I mean, trying
to shine a light on bad referees.
Well, they bring it up multiple times in the movie of like the ref not doing his job and the corners being like, "Do your job, ref," but it's like that ref would have been pulled, the fights would have been stopped multiple times. So it's like they say the name UFC a couple times in the movie to give it some sort of like validity, but outside of that, it's just like all of the people they brought in are seemingly like backyard fighters, like the Kimbo Slices of the world. I mean, I think they did a good job of, they brought in some actual MMA fighters, like they had Anthony Rumble Johnson, Kurt Angle, who is not a actual MMA fighter, but he's an Olympic wrestler. He's the one who plays Koba, the Russian. That
Yeah.
Kurt Angle, he wrestled in the Olympics.
remember that.
You do not remember that.
I do. No, I do.
Yeah, because he's like the big guy that Joel
the big
Edgerton has
guy.
to beat to go into the finals. He's an Olympic wrestler, so he has like a really amazing wrestling pedigree. He has 2 gold medals, and he won in the Olympics with a broke neck. So like they brought in.
He felt like them being like, "You're gonna be a badass," but Joel Edgerton has to beat you, and him just being like, "Okay, fine."
I'm sure he was okay with it because he wouldn't have signed on if he wasn't.
Of course, he's okay with it.
All right, what would you guys rate it?
I'd rate this movie a 7 and a bit of thunder.
I gave it like a 7. No thunder. I mean, it. Like I said, it's like your prototypical like sports movie where there's the sport, but then there's like some sort of like drama driving the person in the sport to do the best they can. But it really doesn't stray from like any sort of like intense sports movie. Or, like I feel like biopics are kind of the same way. So it's just like it's so middle of the pack. It's like 7 no thunder.
No, I agree. I agree with that to an extent. There's more to it than I think all of the emotional stuff that's pushing the actual plot forward worked for me. And like as a guy who doesn't know anything about UFC or MMA, like my ignorance makes it blissful because that stuff I can understand totally why that like bugs the shit out of you, whereas it didn't bug me. I was just all in on the story.
And also,
like I was telling you guys beforehand, like I turned this movie on with the intention of watching it for 20 minutes and then watch the entire thing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Where can we find you?
Hold on, last thing.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry. The thing.
Cut the clock. Dodson over here has one more thing to say.
The thing to me is that there is no company outside of the UFC that could ever afford to put on a $5 million tournament. So the fact that they're like
Bill
saying
Gates could do it.
he's not in the MMA game.
Also not a company.
Yeah. So the fact that they referenced Joel Edgerton
Walmart
being at
could do
one
it.
point in the UFC in
Good
his
save.
life, and then just saying he's out of the UFC, but he's now in a contest where the company can afford to put on like $5 million tournaments. I was like, not really. Like their highest paid fighter in the UFC is either Brock Lesnar and Conor McGregor, and they pulled in about $1 million their last fights. So
Just magic movie money.
yeah,
Where can we find you?
I don't know. I'm off
How
the
about
grid.
emd.princepending.com,
Not on
Twitter,
Instagram.
Facebook.
Not on Instagram anymore.
No.
I broke
We're going
it.
off the grid except for Patreon.
Who requested this movie?
No, we're
I
going
don't
off the
know.
grid except for LinkedIn. Will Brandenburg
Thanks, Will.
requested this movie.
Hey,
Thank you,
Will.
Will.
Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah, thank you.
LinkedIn.
Good night.
Give me a job.